You're watching Taste the Victory. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are joined by Tesero, arguably one of the best purple players in the entirety of North America. He got first with this Creepymon deck at the TrueChamp Series weekly tournament, and then he got third just now in Mario Gaming World Circuit Series. So Tesero, you want to go ahead and take the floor? The show is yours. Let us know what you did to your list and any changes you would make.
All right, so this is the Creepymon list here. We'll get started right away with the eggs. Pretty standard stuff, just the 4 DemiMeramons. You can run 5 eggs if you want. I typically prefer 4 because I like the consistency of always having DemiMeramon. But, you know, this game sometimes do last long enough that we want the 5. It's up to you. We'll start right away with the rookies. So first of all, we have the usual 4 Gabumon. Great card, amazing. Card you always want to see early game. You go into this, you go into scatter, you gain a bunch of value. The deck is all about like gaining some hand value a lot, so you obviously want to run for these as well. We got Tsukaimon. A lot of the time the purpose of your Digimon is to go up and then have it die to something to gain your on Digivolve value. Oftentimes with scatter mode or Cerberus, so getting the extra memory from Tsukaimon is fantastic. So that's the way that's there. 2 Gazimon. Gazimon's great. We all love Gazimon. We all know what Gazimon does. We know what Gazimon is for.
Yep.
Lux games in for you quite often. And here's a personal choice of mine. 3 Elecmon. Elecmon is kind of an interesting tech. He's there to get rid of pesky opponent annoying enemy blockers. Gets you good tempo value when he uses it to remove Vmons or to search your rookies and stuff like that. But the big thing is that when you use Deathclaw on it, you can use the Deathclaw effect to pop the armor trigger purge on it, and then the Elecmon effect will delete the rookie that's lying underneath it. So you use that pretty often to make sure that you don't die to getting rushed down by armors. So 3 is kind of excessive sometimes. Some people might think. So you can like swap this out for another rookie if you want, or for something else entirely, as we'll talk about later. Now for the level 4s, Scatter, obviously, fantastic card, busted card. Graceful Charity on a body. Put this over Gabumon and draw 6, just discard 2, discard 4. Of course. And of course the one of Eyesmon, limited now, but the magic one of you draw so much, you see it pretty often, so it's more reliable than you think. Great value. I got the one of Ginkakumon, which comes up quite a bit for ending games. When you're not playing a control game plan, you're playing a rush game plan, which is what you're doing against other aggressive decks like Imperial and Armors, and against like medium speed decks like X-Anti and Black-War Gray. So having this to help finishing games off is fantastic. I got Kinkakumon here as just another level 4, and is one with a pretty good when attacking effect. So a lot of the time the game plan is to go into Cerberus and swing. And this has just like that extra value you can get. Again, you can use it to pop memory blockers, use it to pop searcher rookies. Great way to like just establish that you've put yourself ahead of the game on them. And then lastly, for level 4s are 2 Ogremon. This is something I saw from Fenton's list. Because Fenton played a very similar list, and he won EU regionals with it. It's actually a modified version of my own list that I sent to him earlier. So Ogremon's great way to like just discard all the things that you need to be in trash for the deck, your Lucemons and such. You know, great graveyard setup, great aggression with the 2 security attack +1, and even better, the inheritable. Another thing that you can put on a Creepymon not a Creepymon, a Cerberusmon to make it even better, because 6K is kind of small, 8K much better, much more likely to survive security or attack over things. But one of the best plays that has is Cerberus, attack over something, replace it with Werewolf, attack over that same thing if it's like an armor or something. Mm-hmm. Cerberusmon is really the core of this deck. These are the only tamers in this deck. Analog Youth, slinging him now to show how important they are, because especially in conjunction with the next cards I'm going to show. Mm-hmm. You know, finds everything you need, puts stuff in the trash to fill your trash, because the trash gun is important. And even most importantly, your game plan a lot of the time is to get hella value off the all turns effect when your Digimon with level 5 or higher with sources die. Obviously, I mentioned before, we're using that a lot with the Cerberusmon package. the Cerberusmon package is like the meat and potatoes of this deck. It's basically what you're doing for the most part against anything that isn't like specifically yellow hybrids. You know, you swing, you get your 2K from Ogremon, side security, go into werewolf mode, tap your analogs, hatch, in memory, evolve. You're like getting like really ahead in tempo now, swing again, and like you can probably rush them out. Then there's the 2 Lucemons. Stuff obviously that's going to set up for the Creepymon as well as other things. Creepymon is great. You're not often going to do the weird creepy loop combo where you're like having 2 5s on board and topping one of the using creepy to pop out werewolf mode. Creepy is actually super situational, and that's why you don't play a lot of it, right? They don't always have 2 Digimon. You're not always late enough in the game for the mill win condition to be available, but for whenever either of those 2 situations pop up, you got the Creepymon. You refine one and 2 because, like I said, situational, and because again, you got all this draw power from scatter mode, from Cerberus, you know, from Gabumon and DemiMeramon. All this draw power should be more than enough. I also got 1 Lilith.
Oh.
Because obviously she's fantastic as well for recurring your option cards and making extending your turns fantastically and getting back. And you play a lot of options in this deck, so you also just great value in getting them back from your hand for like specific ones that you really need to see, because this deck really utilizes calling from the darkness a lot. Like you're fine running such a low count of your 6s, or basically much of anything, because anything that ends up in your trash, you can just use calling to get back. And calling you can get back with Lilithmon and with another method, this other method, AvengeKidmon. Now, this is actually an important part of the piece of this deck, because obviously, you know, you're drawing and discarding a lot. You're milling yourself with Creepymon, and against control matchups, you're gonna go like, it's gonna go for like a while. So you're gonna get to the point where you're decking out before your opponent with this. AvengeKidmon is here to avoid you decking yourself out. Bonus points that it also just auto wins you the Bellstar matchup. I have a hard time losing Bellstar because every time I fight against one, I just drop AvengeKid and it's just too much, and it's just turns the game all the way into my favor, and I win off of that typically. So yeah, AvengeKidmon, super important, but you're only running 1. Sometimes it ends up in trash because it gets milled, or sometimes you need to use it again somehow, and that's what the Junimon is here for.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Junimon is 11k, evolves for 3, retaliation, and when digivolving, mill 3 cards, and then return 1 Digimon, any Digimon, from your trash to your hand. So you can use this to grab back AvengeKidmon. You can also use it to grab it back this yellow Lucemon, which I use for survivability and for like a really cheeky play that I like to do, in which I get to 0 cards in deck, then I play AvengeKidmon to put all my options on top of my deck in any order I want. Then Lucemon can come down to end my turn while healing and putting whatever I put on top of my deck into my security stack. This lets me stack Dead or Alive directly to the top of my security, which increases your survivability super greatly. Like they should be pretty afraid to attack into you at that point. And even if they do, they should the massive value you're getting from Dead or Alive and security should keep you alive. So now we're getting into the option cards, and like I mentioned earlier, we're playing 3 Dead or Alive. And you're fine with playing a high count of Dead or Alive, because besides just using it for giving back Lucemon to like pop things, you're also using it for the Cerberusmon into Werewolf combo, which on top of the memory you're getting with Analog and memory sometimes you're getting from Tsukaimon, gets you a lot of memory. Oftentimes you can go into Cerberus, go into Werewolf, gain like 3 to 4 memory, and then immediately be able to go into Creepymon and or Lilith without passing turn, which is fantastic for like a lot of plays, especially if you're using Creepymon along with Lucemon to out like a really large board.
Right.
Which another thing that helps with outing very large boards is Deathclaw, which I'm running at 3, and because you can go down a couple. I've considered going down on the Deathclaws, but I really like it for like helping me out armor matchups, especially in conjunction with Elecmon. I like it for triggering my own Eyesmon scatter modes. It's just good tempo sometimes. If you're up against, say, Imperial and they have the XVmon or something just on the board, a lot of times you just really want to get rid of it because otherwise it becomes a problem, as you probably know if you've played against Imperial.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've got the obvious 4 Jack rates to go with the 1 Lilithmon. I think I mentioned before, but you can run 2 Lilithmon. I know Fenton's list was running 2, and I used to be running 2. I cut down to 1 because, again, you don't really want to seat early game. You're fine. You're generally drawing enough to seat anyway. You can grab it back from your trash using Calling from the Darkness, which I'm running at 2 here because it's such a fantastic card. But again, yeah, you can if you can find space for it, you can probably play the second Lilith. But yeah, that is the entire deck. But this is the deck in its current form. I'm like never satisfied with my decks, so I'm like constantly like trying out new changes to them. This is just like the current form of it.
Yeah.
Previously, Joe Dobby put me on the Troopmon engine, not an engine, but just like on 4 Troopmons, which is actually what I was running when I got first at the TrueChampGames circuit. The idea behind the Troopmons is that it's just another way for you to get aggressive. You swing the Troopmon, it dies. You bring out Troopmon, you evolve into Cerberus, and now you're ready to make Cerberus plays, right?
Yeah.
But I saw Fenton wasn't running the Troopmons, and it was instead running the Ogremons, as well as Kinkakumon, and I wanted to see how I felt about that, and I really like the Ogremons. It's up to you if you like the Troopmons more or if you like the Ogremons more. Probably the biggest issue with Troopmons is like getting them to trigger consistently because you need to have one on board and one in hand, even with your draw power, because you're also discarding so much. Sometimes it's a pain to like keep the Troopmon in your hand when other cards are better in your hand.
Right.
Other than that, you can also, when I was playing in Carta didn't have starter decks available to us, so I couldn't run the Junomon. Or maybe you yourself don't have access to Junomon because, like, I don't know, you couldn't get starters. You like live in Canada or something. In that case, you can just play the second Avenge, which helps in seeing it early, and there's also like a nice tech choice if you like expect Battlestar, just having the extra Avenge kit so you see it early. But it's kind of important to have the ability to avenge more than once because in the Yellow Rapid matchup, you do get those games where you want to avenge more than once. Or sometimes you just mill one off your Creepymon or something, or it's in your security. So either the second Avenge Kit or Junomon is recommended. Other than that, I also was used to be running extra. Before I was running the Troopmon and before I was running the Ogremon, I was running an extra Kinkakumon and extra Promote. So that's an option as well if you don't want to run those cards. So yeah, that's the deck in a nutshell. I can probably talk about some of the matchups. Generally, against yellow hybrids or anything slow like that, you kind of just like win. You don't have to do anything because when you're against yellow hybrids, Creepymon is the plan. You're trying to mill them out, so you don't actually need to swing at all unless you're really desperate for Eyesmon draws. You just like leave it there and wait for him to clear it yourself with Rapidmon. Because you're just digging through your deck for your pieces, waiting things out, dealing with their opponent's board as they bring stuff out. Like they bring out Rapidmon, right? So you bring out your Cerberus after they swung their Rapidmon, after they've gotten value of it. You can use Ogremon effect to make it 8k, so you can swing over Rapid Trigger Purge, bring out Werewolf, swing over that, take care of the Patamon underneath, and while also gaining a lot of value that puts you ahead. Other than that, your game plan is to use your Lucemons to pop their Tamers, so they lose a lot of value on that. Like you're trying to get them to the point where you have multiple 5s on board for whatever reason because the game has lasted that long, and you go creepy, swing, mill, creepy, swing, mill. Which is a lot to ask for, but you do have the Jack raids late game, gaining you like 2 to 3 memory at a time. And even if one of these Creepymons are in your trash, you have Calling. You can swing creepy, play Calling, delete the creepy, grab back the creepy, evolve the creepy, swing it. Like you can mill like 12 cards, you can mill like 18 cards in one turn, maybe even more. I've gotten to the point where I've had like 40 cards in trash, and I've done that. Like once in a blue moon, you get to the 40 cards in trash. Don't expect it though. Typically, it's gonna be 30 cards, which is 9 cards milled with Creepymon, and then you try to set up for the next Creepymon to mill another 9 cards. Susan might be a problem, but even through Susan, I've been able to mill them. One thing to note, I've had this come up. If they're at 0 cards in deck and they go for Susan, they have to put the 10 cards into the deck before they actually evolve into Susan. It's the cost for his ability to evolve over a tamer, which means when they evolve into Susan, they will draw for 1 for that evolution, so they'll be at 9 cards, which is the perfect amount for Creepy to mill when you have 30 cards in trash.
Amazing. That's a really incredible interaction. Nice. Very anti-meta tailored, it sounds like.
It's very anti-meta tailored, yes. So you kind of just win Rapidmon matchups like automatically because of that. It's really it's not like obviously you need to have like the skill and practice needed to win this matchup.
Sure.
But it's like generally extremely favored. Against the other matchups, not so much. Against Bellstar, it all comes down to you finding AvengeKid fast enough to like anti-Bellstar them.
Right. And how does this feel into the faster decks of the meta?
The faster the decks of the meta are the issues. Armors is rough, but I've had stabilized them against them before. It's because this deck kind of has like a slow win con game. Oh, not always. Some of it is a slow win con game, right? Because of you aren't nearly as aggressive. You aren't like Armors is super fast. They go armor, fire rocket, swing 2 checks, armor texture, swing another 2 checks, and now you're down like 4 security. And unless you got lucky with stuff in your security, which you can because you're running so many options, and that's very often how I win those matchups is they hit something. They hit Jackraid very often because I'm running 4. Sometimes they hit Deathclaw, sometimes they hit Dead or Alive. Not commonly though. I don't expect Dead or Alive in security, but it's so nice when it happens. But it's possible to stabilize. Generally, your game plan is to try to get Cerberus in like on the board with sources ASAP. Because I mentioned before, you can clear an armor by swinging, going into Werewolf, swinging again over it, and then if they have more cards on board, you can Creepy. If you have the Ginkakumon in the and sources, you can use that to clear out any Searcher rookies that they've played after they've done their armor plays. So you can use that, and I've had games where I've against armors and they've gotten me down to like 1 security and I've managed to stabilize the game and then like turn it into my favor. The one of Luce also helps immensely because if they put you to 0 security and they have a guy in raising, you're kind of doomed if you don't have something like Yellow Lucy to give you that 1 recovery that you need.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
But sometimes they don't draw so well enough that they can rush you down, and you can actually win the race against them because you can swing Cerberus. It lives because securities aren't as big as they used to be, so Cerberus commonly lives, even more so with Ogremon. And then you can go into Werewolf, swing again, and then gain the pop analog, hatch, set up your next guy in the raising area, so you're like basically expanding board at the same time. Gaining memory to actually put even more stuff on board or clear out their board with Deathclaw, and you basically just outrace them that way. And that's also generally true of the Imperial matchup. Oftentimes what I've seen in an Imperial is if they don't know this matchup well enough, they might overextend. They swing their Paildramon twice, and then I take them by surprise by pulling out the Cerberus, replacing you with Werewolf. 9k is bigger than 8k, attack over Paildramon, and despite being like, say, at 2, maybe 1 security left, I take that momentum and turn it into a victory. Right? Right.
Makes sense.
And if they go into Dragon mode instead, perfect. You can make Creepymon now, and you can use Creepymon to get the Lucemon Chaos mode to help clear their board.
Delete their megas.
Delete their stuff. Typically, it's not just Creepymon. I have to use Creepymon and some Deathclaws to clear out the little dudes they spawned afterwards. It's still sketchy. Imperial can be very fast, can be very high rolly. Sometimes they just see the combo and their HPD right away and just kill you turn 2. And there's like nothing you can do about it except for like pray that Jackraid or Dead or Alive are in security.
Right. There's basically no interaction with an HPD. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like just no way to interact with that shit. And obviously, the thing I hate the most about the Imperial matchup is that Cerberusmon is 6k, Eyesmon is 4k. They both get bottom
Oh,
decked
yeah.
by Pyojimon. Having to play around that is like the biggest nuisance. It just makes your plays very awkward. As is the fact that I'm not playing a memory tamer. They'd be nice, but the deck space is already very tight. It's very option heavy because I'm running at least 12 to make sure that AvengeKit is as cheap as possible. Um, Typically, you're pretty reliant on analog youth memory and or Jackraid memory. Sometimes I get annoyed by memory blockers, which is another reason why you want to be playing Elecmons and Deathclaws and Ginkakumon. Other important matchups are versus Black, versus X Antibody and Black or Gray. Since those are somewhat slower matchups, as in they're building up their big sixes, that's when you have to go all in on the get mega aggressive with your fours and your Cerberuses to try to win the game as fast as possible before they get anything going. Sometimes against X Anti, they get the Oryu out, but by then they have like two, maybe one security left, and I just go wide and manage to, win before, win before they get anything going there. And same with Black or Gray. Black or Gray might be one of the second easiest matchup next to Yellow Hybrid because no protection, unlike Oryu. You just Chaos Mode, goodbye Black Warg. They're pretty behind from that point. Same scenario where you're getting super aggressive with the Cerberuses and you often just win before they even get a chance to get anything happen. Because they're always just constantly just digging for whatever level they're missing, and in the meantime, you're going swing, swing, swing.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is such a creative build. I love seeing all these diverse builds starting to show up in BT8. Just assessing the meta and what to take into it. I love it. It looks like it's very skill reliant too on piloting this, getting familiar with all your branching paths of action, all that stuff. So this is awesome. Congratulations on both of your amazing placements. First place in one tournament, third place in another, and then when you let the list out, it ended up winning EU's entire regionals. That's amazing. That's some crazy deck building. So congratulations again to your amazing finishes, Tesero. Thank you for coming onto the channel. I do know you were streaming your run for the Mario tournament. I was watching that stream. Where can the people of YouTube find that Twitch channel?
It's twitch.tv/TeseroDCG, one word.
And that will be linked in the description below if you guys didn't catch that. So thanks again, Tesero. And until then, thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.